Good morning, my friends. I am so grateful to be with you today. So, I'm going to address the elephant in the room first. Um, we're all going to work together to ignore that I have a fat lip today and that I can't smile as big as I want to or laugh as hard as I want to because my face. Anyway, um, stay out of the way of flying Rubbermaid lids is all I'm going to say. Um, that's how this got here. It's not cute, but we have things to do, so we're just going to ignore it today. Thank you for participating. So this morning, good morning again, my friends. Now that we've got that out of the way, I wanted to talk with you today about the concept of reluctant leadership because these are the people that I'm typically working with, and they're in all different industries and they're leading in all different capacities, right? Sometimes they're leading clients, sometimes they're leading teams, sometimes they're leading people they don't know in an effort to succeed in a project. Sometimes they're leading war fighters, right? Sometimes they're either in leadership roles in the military or transitioning out of that space. But for those of you that don't know me well or know me in real life, you may not know that I am like a world class introvert. And every time I say that, especially to people, who have come into my circle through this virtual space, everybody that hears me say that is like, that is not true. But it is true. Because one of the myths about the introvert extrovert argument is that introverts don't have people skills. And there's a big difference, right? So, introverts can absolutely have people skills. Two, the introvert extrovert argument is actually about where our energy is replenished. So, extroverts get fed by the energy around them. So if the energy around them is slow and chill, then they kind of just blend into that. If it's loud and hyped up, then they get fed by that as well. Introverts get their energy restored from quiet and from aloneness and from things like reading or taking a walk in nature or listening to their own music. So, very different than the way people often think about introvertedness versus extrovertedness. So, most of the people, well, all the people that I work with in my client scope are introverts. And what that means is that they typically don't love being in the limelight, in the spotlight, right? So, what happens when introverts are in a position where other people are looking to them to lead? This has happened to me for arguably my entire life. It started in group projects at school that everybody was like, you're the leader of the team. And every time I would just like hide in the background and assume that they were hope that they were pointing at someone that wasn't me because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I didn't want the attention. I didn't want whatever power comes with being the leader. I still don't, right? This is still something that I tend to shy away from. And obviously, in my role as a business owner and an industry leader and all of the other things I do, leadership and being out in front is a requirement. And so I wanted to talk about this concept of reluctant leaders because I wanted to talk about the things that made me feel that way and maybe making you feel that way, and what we can do about it, right? So, the other ways we can come through reluctant leadership is when, and this happens a lot to business owners specifically and creators, that there's a gap we see in the world that we are so deeply passionate about and intimately connected to that we can't imagine a world where that gap doesn't get filled, right? Because we see the need, we see the benefit that it can provide to the people around us, and we feel called to fill that gap. But we don't necessarily want all the other stuff that comes with that, right? And so this is, this is another example of reluctant leadership, that you're in a leadership role and you need to lead, but you don't necessarily, you just want to solve the problem, right? You just want to fill the gap. You want to meet the need, but you don't necessarily want to lead other humans. You don't want to be put in a position where you're the one that has to have the answers. So again, what happens in this environment when we are reluctant leaders, when we're trying to meet a need versus truly feeling like a leader within ourselves, it causes a really great disconnect, and it amplifies a lot of insecurities. It amplifies imposter syndrome, which is this feeling of not feeling qualified, not feeling like you're the person that should have the answers, not feeling like you ever will be the person with the answers, right? And so we're in a leadership role, but we don't feel like we have the expertise to be the leader, right? We're looking, it's like, sometimes we want to find an adultier adult, right? Somebody that has their stuff together more than we feel like we do. And again, we get to this reluctance from our own insecurities and from the idea that we have to behave as something we're not in order to lead, right? We have to always be the one with the answers. We have to always be the one that has it all together. We have to always appear a certain way or look a certain way or carry ourselves in a certain way. We're not allowed to have struggles. We're not allowed not to know, right? And the further we get along the journey without addressing that, the more the pressure builds, right? Because every time somebody has a question that we don't know the answer to, we put it in our backpack as another bit of evidence that we're not qualified to do what we're doing, right? Have you ever felt that way? I have. My own journey to this place has been a lot about addressing insecurities and about overcoming the fears that I was carrying so that I could solve the disconnect inside of me. Because here's the thing. This is what's so fascinating about this particular dynamic is that everybody else can see the gifts that you have that make them designate you as the leader in whatever environment they're in, right? They can see that you have everybody's best interest in mind. They can see that you're capable. They can see that you're intelligent. They can see that you are able to solve problems and think critically about things that nobody else seems to find solutions for. They can see that you are balanced and kind and logical and rational in the way you go about things, that you're not, all over the place emotionally. And again, they can see this impact, this giant heart within you that wants to do the good thing and the right thing. So, how do we get to a place where we can see within us what everybody else seems to see? And this was a disconnect that I lived for a very long time. I could not understand, and I still have my days, trust me on this one. I could not understand why people were always looking to me for answers. And this got especially amplified during a time in my life where I felt like not only had the wheels fallen off my bus, but the bus was on fire. There was a hurricane coming, right? One of everything was wrong. And I felt like, gosh, here I'm having all my own struggles and all my own stuff and all my own problems that I can't figure out. And these people want my help to solve their problems. And again, it lends itself to this idea of imposter syndrome of like, I'm not qualified to help you. But the reality was, I was then, and I am still. And it took one, learning myself, learning my own leadership style, truly coming to understand my own gifts and what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were. And this is the next really beautiful step. When we can identify our weaknesses and our own gaps and not make them mean that we're not qualified, beautiful things happen. This is where we come to a place where we can hire people or seek people's help or fill the gaps with others that are better than us at those things. Because we don't mind admitting that there are things we're not good at, or there are things that people are better at than us, right? That's okay. Nobody is good at literally everything. Nobody. And the more we pretend like we have to be, the more the pressure builds, right? So over the course of time, we get to feeling like we're in a pressure cooker. We have to do it all. We have to do it all alone. We have to have all the answers. We have to constantly be okay emotionally and mentally. We have to be able to carry other people's weight in addition to our own. And I'm here to tell you today, and this is why this was so important for me today, to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way. And I know that if you are a reluctant leader, that the odds are also really good that right now you are surrounded by a whole bunch of people that may actually not be able to provide mutual support for you. Because that's the way it happens. The doers get surrounded by people that need to have things done for them. And there's a whole lot of facets to why that happens, not the least of which is that often, because of our own feelings of unworthiness and our own insecurities, we need to be needed and we need to feel valued. And so these people that need us make us feel like that. But when we can, when we can develop the courage to become more open about the challenges that we're going through and look for other thinkers and doers, because they're out there, I promise, that can provide mutual support to us. We can think and do for them when they're in a hard spot, and they can think and do for us when we're in a hard spot. We start to build mutually beneficial relationships that amplify our strengths and fill in the gaps of our weaknesses without sacrificing the trust that we need other people to have in our leadership. And when we develop the courage to be authentic in our leadership, we also grow more powerful teams. When, as a leader, we can show up and say, yes, my work is important, and my family and my health and my life, my quality of life, are also as important to me as this. It's all the things together, it's the whole sphere of things. Then we give our teams permission to do the same. Want to talk about mind-blowing culture? When we're able to give ourselves grace for our mistakes or our missteps, we're able to more easily give grace to others, and that creates a really beautiful ripple effect as well. So the thing about this is, before we get too long into this video, because we'll be talking about this topic a lot more coming up, the reluctant leader part, the reluctance, is far more based in our own insecurities and our own perceptions of ourselves than it is about the purpose we were designed to fulfill and the way other people are perceiving us. When I began to make these shifts for myself a long time ago, I started to see the people in my life that could mutually support me and lean into nurturing those relationships first, and then meet the needs of others when I was able. I also am now surrounded by people that remind me regularly that I get to be a human. That just because I'm a leader, and especially as a leader in the mindset and wellness spaces, doesn't mean that I don't get to be upset, I don't get to be impatient, I don't get to have my days like everybody else does. And the way that we can lean into that is by, again, giving ourselves grace in our moments where we're allowing ourselves to be humans with emotions, right? And struggles and extra exhaustion some days, some days when you just don't have it in you. Then give yourself the space to not. Because beating your head against a wall for 8 hours is not going to be any more productive than creating space for yourself to have what you need. But in order to start parting the seas so we can get to this place, we have to address all these deep-rooted fears that we don't want to talk about, especially within circles where we don't have people to provide that mutual support yet. We haven't found those people. So we need a place where we can practice feeling safe to talk about it and to hear other people say, oh yeah, me too. Oh yeah, I remember when that happened to me. Oh, when I feel shameful for resting, these are the strategies that I employ. Because now we're in a space with like-minded humans who are going through similar challenges and battling the same core wounds, that now we don't feel like loners anymore. Now we don't feel like anomalies. We don't feel like we're wildly misunderstood and will never be. And this is one of the reasons that I'm constantly saying, I don't care what your life looks like on the outside. I care what it feels like. Because people like me, people like us, are thinkers and doers. And that combination is very rare and incredibly powerful, and also comes with a pretty significant dark side in that it is difficult to find the others because we spend so much time hiding. Because of our own insecurities and the idea that we need people to see that we have it all and we have it all together all the time without fail, is what leads us to say, oh, I'm fine. Business is great. Family's doing great. Everything's fantastic. Nothing's ever wrong in my world. I live in the world of sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. And we say that to our fellow business owners and reluctant leaders and circle. And by that show, we not only minimize our own emotions and struggles, we also make the people that we should be connecting with about on this common ground feel like they're the only ones that are experiencing it. Which is why I started talking about all of this out loud. And it's really funny in a beautiful, interesting way that the elite clients that I work with in this space to address these deep-rooted fears that keep us from saying things out loud that need to be said and build the kind of connection we actually want in our lives and foster the kind of support and teams and success that we desire are from completely different backgrounds. One of the questions I get a lot is like, what industry do you work with? Or have you worked with people in my industry before? And the answer truly is, it doesn't matter. Because what we're working on is so many layers deeper than that. There are leaders in literally every industry on the planet. And in all kinds of roles in life, whether they're parents, whether they're church leaders, whether they're team leaders, whether they work in executive environments, in a corporate space, whether they're business owners, whether they're community leaders, whether they're independent professionals that are leading their own clients and their own small teams, that are experiencing exactly the same core wounds and fear sets as people in completely unrelated job roles. And it doesn't matter. Because when we're solving at the root of the problem, where these fears exist, and start peeling those back and healing all of that, this really incredible synergy and tribe comes to be that allows for far more openness and safe authenticity. And it's really incredible. And I am honored every single freaking day I get to be a part of it. And that I get to bear witness and help people into these massively life-changing transitions with support and love and caring and humor and all of the things that these wounds bring us, right? And I'm grateful to be able to be in this space. So again, we're going to talk about the idea of reluctant leadership a lot more as time goes on, because I think that this is really something we can all get a handle on together and creates the kind of world that we all want to be living in and creates the change within ourselves that creates the ripple effect in our communities and our support structures that we really deeply desire. Sorry, I'm reading these comments. Guy, thank you for that note. It's so true. Um, our support networks are important, and we owe it to them to show up knowing our capabilities and strengths and gifts, and also authenticity, right? And so if you've heard me talk at all, you've heard me talk about balance in all things, including balance. And so one of the things that we talk about and we work through a lot in my work with my clients is that being authentic and being vulnerable and allowing yourself to have emotions does not mean that you have to be an emotional basket case. We can acknowledge emotions and move through emotions and respond to emotions without doing this outwardly, right? We can say, this is disappointing, this is upsetting, here's why, here's how we're going to solve it, without minimizing the emotions and without collapsing into a heap of incapability, right? Which is I say that because that's a fear that a lot of my clients have, is that if I stop pretending I don't know that I'm battling these things, then the house of cards is going to fall down. But that doesn't have to be true. When we have the right support, when we have the right tools, we can acknowledge and navigate the emotion and the hardship and the challenge without derailing the progress and the productivity, right? So all of those things are important. That's what we work on within my sphere is, yes, to acknowledging the hard, creating space to navigate the hard, and ensuring that we can continue to show up for ourselves and the people and things that we care about without it all coming unglued. So, if that's the kind of support that you might benefit from, I would love to have a conversation about how I might be able to help. There's a bunch of different tools that I have and offer that may be helpful for you in very different parts along the way. So if you're, kind of just starting out and fighting burnout and fighting survival mode and fighting a nervous system that's super hyperactive, there's a whole process for that. If you've been reading the self-help books and trying to implement strategies, but you're just still exhausted and overwhelmed and you feel like you're chasing your tail, there's a strategy for that. And I'd welcome the opportunity to chat through it and figure out what the next best step for you might be, whether or not I'm a part of that solution. So enjoy the day. Lean into the people that care about you. Allow them to care about you. Allow yourself to receive support and love. And remember that you are worthy and deserving and capable, even on the days when it feels like you're not. I'll see you next time.